Week 14 of the NFL season is here, and this week our Houston Texans take on the Denver Broncos in Houston. Now, right off the bat, I'm going to say this. Watch out, because this is definitely 100% a trap game, or it could definitely be a trap game. Why? Well, Texans coming off a big win, actually coming off 2 big wins in a row, and now they're facing a 4-8 team. That's like a recipe for a trap game. So the Texans got to be very, very careful. Now, this is a must-win game for the Texans. From here on out, every game is a must-win game for the Texans, from what it feels like. Because if the Texans lose this game, they fall to 8-5. 8-5 isn't very impressive. If they win, they go to 9-4, and at 9-4, they're looking a lot better. I mean, potentially, possibly, it's, there's a small chance of it happening. Highly unlikely, but the chance is still there. A chance at a first-round bye if New England happens to drop 2 games. So, at 8-5, you could pretty much kiss all that goodbye. At 9-4, you still have a legit shot, or a small shot, at a first-round bye. And the Texans, they just gotta string some wins together, man. This whole season, they haven't gone on a win streak. I don't count 2 wins in a row as a win streak. The Texans can't keep doing the whole lose 1, win 2 BS. They've been doing it since the start. And, we beat Indy, beat New England. So if the pattern continues, the Texans would lose to Denver. That's why they have to avoid that. They have to beat Denver. They have to get 3 wins in a row, and then beat Tennessee and get 4, and then beat Tampa and get 5, and then beat Tennessee again and get 6. They have to get some wins going. This whole inconsistency thing, it's got to stop, man. Got to stop. Got to string some wins together. Now, as for the Broncos, they're 4-8. Drew Lock was named their starting quarterback last week. And if you guys don't know, Drew Lock was a second-round pick from this year. He's a rookie quarterback. And, the Broncos, they do have some talent. They have Chris Harris, a very good corner. They have Kareem Jackson. You guys are familiar with Kareem Jackson. Terrible corner, but he is very good at safety, and the Broncos are indeed using him at safety. They also have Von Miller, and I'm not too sure if Von Miller is going to play this game. He did miss out last week against the Chargers with a knee injury, so I'm not sure if he'll play against Houston. I'm hoping he doesn't, because that'll make things much easier for Houston, but if he does, then you just got to deal with it. And then offensively, they have Courtland Sutton, who's been having a pretty good season, a breakout season. And they have Phillip Lindsay. Although he's kind of having a down year, in my opinion, he's still pretty dangerous. So, Texans got to be ready. They can't let the Broncos come into Houston on Battle Red Day and let them win. This game has the potential to be Week 4 versus Carolina all over again, Texans can't have that again. They have to get this win. Now, let's get into these matchups. Let's start off with the Broncos offense versus the Texans defense, starting with the run game. Now, the Broncos, they're pretty middle of the pack when it comes to running the football. Like I said, I think Phillip Lindsay's having a bit of a down year, but it could be due to the fact that he's sharing carries with Royce Freeman. So that could be it, but regardless, the Broncos' run game is very, very average. Now, the Texans' run defense, it was terrible against Baltimore. It was terrible against Indianapolis, but they did a pretty good job against New England. I mean, besides this one, 40-yard run that James White had, or I think it was two, it might have been two, I believe, unless it was a reception, but yeah. Besides that, Texans did a pretty good job on stopping the run last week versus New England. So I expect the Texans to come into this game and be able to stop the Broncos' run game. In fact, I see the Texans completely shutting it down and forcing Drew Lock to beat them. Now let's move on to the pass game, now that we're talking about Drew Lock. In my opinion, the Broncos only have one real receiving threat, and that is Courtland Sutton. Everyone else, in my opinion, is not that good, or at least not as good as Courtland Sutton. Not type of players that will ruin your day. Courtland Sutton, Phillip Lindsay, they can ruin your day. But everyone else on that offense, not really. Now, the Texans secondary, they've been very good these past 2 weeks. I mean, you guys saw how they frustrated Tom Brady. And they should also be getting Garyon Conley back, who was arguably the Texans' best corner. So, Garyon Conley, Bradley Roby, Vernon Hargraves, Lonnie Johnson, Jonathan Joseph, who's been playing really good these past 2 weeks. The Texans, all of a sudden, they're kind of stacked at the corner position. I mean, Gibson's healthy, Justin Reed is healthy, Jalil Adai is healthy. We're looking pretty good in the secondary, so I expect the secondary to put the clamps on that Broncos passing attack. In fact, Romeo Crennel happens to have a good track record versus rookie quarterbacks, so I expect the Texans to make life extremely difficult for Drew Lock. I'm predicting a multiple sack game for the Texans front seven, as well as a multiple interception game for the Texans secondary. I feel like it's going to be one of those type of games where the Texans defense completely puts the clamps on that offense. That's how I see it. I'm just honestly not afraid of this Broncos offense. And, not trying to be mean to Drew Lock or anything, because honestly, I like Drew Lock. I liked him coming out of college. I thought he was a perfect fit for Denver, but I just haven't seen enough of Drew Lock. He didn't do so well last week against the Chargers, and I feel like the Texans have a better defense than the Chargers do. So, yeah, and the Texans are at home as well, so that could make life a little bit more difficult on Drew Lock, because the Texans are indeed coming off arguably their biggest regular season win in their franchise. So, Texans fans I'm expecting Texans fans to be real loud and make life difficult for Drew Lock. Now let's flip it over to the Texans offense versus the Broncos defense. Now, the Broncos run defense, it isn't very good. The past 2 weeks, they've let Melvin Gordon and Devin Singletary have pretty good games against them. The Texans, well, they've struggled to run the football since the bye week. Well, after the bye week. They couldn't run it against Baltimore. They couldn't run it against Indianapolis. They couldn't run it against New England. Well, I expect the Texans' run game to get back on track against Denver. I expect Carlos Hyde and Duke Johnson to have pretty good games on the ground against Denver. So that's pretty much how I see that playing out. Let's move on to the passing game. The Broncos, well, yeah, they have a good pass defense, but I really don't think the Broncos have the personnel to stop all of the Texans' weapons. I don't think they can stop Hopkins, Fuller, Kenny Stills. And they also got to worry about Darren Fells, Jordan Akins, Duke Johnson coming out of the backfield and going out there to run routes. So, yeah, I just don't see the Broncos being able to defend all of Watson's weapons. And it's also possible, like I said earlier, Von Miller, he's been dealing with a knee injury, so it is possible that Von Miller could miss this game. Now, the chances of it happening, I don't know. I heard that last week it was a 50-50 shot of him playing. So obviously this week it'll be higher, but since the Broncos are no longer in playoff contention, I could see the Broncos deciding to sit out Von Miller and not risk a long-term injury, because season's over for Denver. There's 4 weeks left. There's no point of them throwing out their star pass rusher and risking him getting hurt from an injury that he already has. Sometimes when you play with an injury, you only make it worse. So, yeah, it's possible that the Broncos sit him out. And not only that, the Broncos, they already lost Bradley Chubb and Derek Wolfe for the season, so Watson should have plenty of time to throw. Yes, I understand Chris Clark and Rod Johnson. If Von Miller plays, obviously Von Miller will be playing against the right tackle. That's where he usually lines up, against the right tackle. Chris Clark and even Rod Johnson, and honestly even Titus Howard, as good as he was playing his rookie year, I don't trust any of those guys versus Von Miller. Titus Howard, he's going to be good, but rookie playing against Von Miller, I don't quite trust it, man. Von Miller, he's a completely different animal, so yes, it does scare me a bit if Von Miller plays, but I do trust in the Texans to scheme against Von Miller. Maybe have Carlos Hyde chip Von Miller every now and then, line up Darren Fells over there to help out Rod Johnson / Chris Clark, and have Watson get rid of the ball quick. But regardless, like I said, no Chubb, no Derek Wolfe. Watson should have time. He should have time. There should be no excuse to why this Texans offense couldn't get going or shouldn't get going against this Denver defense. And yes, I understand Denver's defense is good, but I just think the Texans offense is also very good. We saw what they did last week against the number 1 ranked defense in the league. They passed it all over them. Couldn't run the ball, so Watson just threw it, and Texans won. This Broncos pass defense isn't as good as that. Their run defense is leaky, so the Texans should be able to have their way with this Broncos defense. Now for my keys to the game. Key number 1, stop the run. They did a good job of doing that last week. They got to do it again this week, because even though Drew Lock is a rookie quarterback, if a quarterback has a run game, any quarterback can be dangerous with play action passes and all that. They say a good run game is a quarterback's best friend, and that's true. So the Texans have to stop the run. They have to contain it, stop it, shut it out, shut it down. Next key, pressure and confuse Drew Lock. Romeo Crennel did it against Tom Brady last week. He frustrated Tom Brady. He should be able to do it to Drew Lock as well. If for whatever reason Drew Lock goes off against his Texans defense, Romeo Crennel should be fired. I don't care that, Tom Brady's having a down year. Comparing Drew Lock, a rookie, making a second start, to Tom Brady, it's like, it's not even close, you know? So, if Cornell did it against Brady, he should have no problem doing it against Locke. And for the next key, take what the defense gives you. I don't want Deshaun Watson playing hero ball this game. Against New England, fine. You know, against Denver, no. This is a game that you should easily be able to win by just taking what they give you. You know, just simple little dump offs if they're there. If nothing's open, take the dump off, hand it off. You know, just take what they give you. No need to give them any extra possessions or good field position. Just take what they give you and get out of this game. Try to get out healthy. And yeah. Now, my prediction for this game is 27-13 Texans win. I just honestly think the Texans are a better team in so many different ways. And I believe they will take care of business and they won't fall into the whole trap game thing. So, yeah, those are my predictions for this game. Comment down below your own predictions for this game and be sure to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching and I'll catch you guys later. Peace.